After finding out which weapon type was the most popular amongst the elements and the nations, I wanted to look into which Genshin nations were the most popular amongst the 7 elements. So, with version 4 coming to a close, I looked into it and this is what I found. Starting in Mondstadt, the most popular element type is Cryo, with 5 Cryo characters: Eula, Diona, Kaya, Mika, and Rosaria. And the least popular is Dendro, as there are still no Dendro characters from Mondstadt. Putting Dendro aside, the least popular is Geo and Hydro with 2 each, Albedo and Noelle, and Mona and Barbara. Now, just like my weapon element comparison, I'll also look if the results change proportionally by comparing the percentage of characters rather than the raw numbers. In Mondstadt, the results only slightly change, with Cryo still keeping top spot with 33.33%, Dendro keeping last with 0%, but the tie for second last between Hydro and Geo has been resolved, with Hydro coming out roughly 5% lower compared to Geo's 20. Next up is Liyue, where the most popular element is Pyro, with 5 characters: Hu Tao, Gaming, Xiangling, Xinyan, and Yanfei. And the least popular is way less clear, because Anemo, Electro, Dendro, and Hydro each have 2 characters, making them the least popular, which is why we also look at it proportionally, and when doing so, Pyro stays in the lead with 33.33%, but this insane 4-way tie is broken, with Electro taking last place with 14.29%. Voting over to Inazuma, the most popular element by far is Electro with 4 characters: Raiden, Yaimiko, Kujosara, and Kuki. And the least populated is Dendro and Cryo with only 1 apiece: Kurara and Ayaka. Now, Inazuma is probably the nation that changes the most when accounting for proportionality, as when flipped, Geo now becomes the most popular element, edging out Electro by 1.43%. And the Dendro-Cryo debate is settled, with Cryo becoming the least popular element proportionally in Inazuma. Swinging over to Sumeru, the most popular element is Dendro, with a whopping 5 Dendro characters: Alhaitham, Nahida, Tagnari, Kale, and your boy, Kave. With Geo having 0 characters from Sumeru, it takes last place, and Pyro and Cryo take second last. And, funnily enough, when adjusted for proportionality, quite literally nothing changes. Geo stays in last, Dendro keeps the lead, and Pyro and Cryo, having 15 characters total each, continue in Sumeru tied for second last. How weird. Swinging over to Fontaine, Hydro and Cryo prove the most popular with 3 characters each. And in last place, if we can call it that in this scenario, goes to Anemo, Geo, Electro, and Dendro, who all have only 1 character. Proportionally, the ties on all fronts are broken, with Hydro taking top spot and Electro taking bottom place. And there you have it. While we may not be done yet, this is all the results for the most popular elements of each nation, based on the raw numbers and the adjusted figures. Before we move on to find out the flipped answers, the most popular nations amongst the 7 elements, I wanted to explore the results amongst the nations a little more. Some notable figures to me were the region element alignments that made sense and those that didn't make sense. For example, I do appreciate how the lands of Electro, Dendro, and Hydro at first glance are the most popular elements within their respective nations, and an even bigger shout out to Sumeru and Fontaine, who keep that top place position even when accounting for proportionality. I've said this a few times on this channel, but I do appreciate 1, full elemental representation amongst the nations, and 2, simple things like element region parallels, which makes it all the more annoying that the first 2 nations, Mondstadt and Liyue, just don't have this, with Anemo being pretty middle of the road in Mondstadt and Geo being similar in Liyue. While I hope that the potential Mondstadt expansion fixes this, I'm not holding my breath. Speaking of full elemental representation, while I would like to comment on some regions still not having characters of a certain element, I'll leave it for after the analysis of the most popular nations within the 7 elements. After finding out the most popular elements within the regions, it's time to flip the script a little and look at the data regarding the 7 elements.
Hey, if you're watching this video right now, chances are you are not subscribed, because 100% of people that watch this channel are not subscribed. Subscribe now.
Starting off with Anemo, Mondstadt, and Inazuma both have 3 characters each, placing them at the top, while Fontaine only has 1. When accounting for proportionality, sadly Mondstadt loses top spot with Anemo, with Inazuma and its 18.75% making it the most popular nation within Anemo, with no changes on the least popular front. Rocking over to Geo, we once again have a tie for first place between Liyue and Inazuma, who both have 3 Geo characters each. In last place is Sumeru with 0 Geo characters, followed by Fontaine with just Navia. Proportionally, the bottom 2 results don't change, but the tie between Liyue and Inazuma is broken, and the land of Geo loses the top spot in Geo to Inazuma, once again bearing 18.75%. Speeding over to Electro, Inazuma is in top spot with 4 Electro characters: Raiden, Yaimiko, Kujosara, and Kuki, and Fontaine is in last place with just Corrend. Proportionally, nothing changes and these regions keep their positions. Blossoming into Dendro, the most popular region is Sumeru with 5 characters, and the least populated is Mondstadt, as it has no one. Second last place is a tie between Inazuma and Fontaine, who each have 1 Dendro character each. Now, proportionally, the first and last positions see no changes, but With that second last place tie, we see a break, with Inazuma taking second last on its own at 6.25% compared to Fontaine's 8.33. Riding the wave over to Hydro, we see what I think is the funniest of the 7 elements so far, with so many little oddities, because while Fontaine takes first place with 3 characters, last place is a 4-way tie with the rest of the playable regions, only having 2. And really just here to serve as a reminder of why I like to adjust for proportionality in the first place. I think we should also address the grayed out elephant in the room. Okay, up until this point, I haven't included Snezhnaya because, well, it's not actually a playable nation yet, but our Ginger King child is a Hydra character. I wanted to acknowledge him here and say yes, if we were counting Snezhnaya, then it would take last place with only Ed Sheeran, but that doesn't feel like a holistic answer, so instead, let's see how the adjustments for proportionality affect the results, and while Fontaine stays in the front, we see the 4-way tie broken, with Liyue taking the last position, beating Mondstadt by a narrow 0.53%. How lovely. Blazing a path to Pyro, we see that Liyue is in the top spot with 5 characters, and Sumeru is at the bottom with just Dea, and yes, this would also be the time to acknowledge the father in the room, Arlecchino, who would also place Snezhnaya in bottom place here, but just like our Ginger King, I didn't want to include Mommy in this because it just didn't feel right. With Dad out of the way though, we see that proportionally, nothing changes and all answers remain the same. Snowballing to Cryo, Mondstadt solidly takes the lead with 5 Cryo characters, while Inazuma and Sumeru cop last place with only 1. This is once again another brilliant time to point out one of the community's favorite characters, Aloy, from not Teyvat and also being in last place, but also being homeless, so I'm not counting it. Adjusting the data leaves Mondstadt in first place and Inazuma in last with 6.25%.
If you made it this far and are interested in supporting the channel, memberships are available for only $1 USD. For that, you get a shout out at the end of every video. Join now!
And there you have it, all the data on the region element comparison packed into this video. Now, like I commented at halftime, I did want to talk about elemental representation because it is a bit lacking in some regions. Sumeru still doesn't have a Geo character, and Mondstadt still doesn't have a Dendro character. And I would blame Sumeru for being new or something, but Fontaine at least has 1 character in each of the element types, so what gives, Hoyo? Besides that, though, some other numbers of note are the total spread of characters throughout the regions and elements. Looking at the totals, we see that heading into version 5, Liyue has the most characters at a solid 20, beating out Mondstadt by a solid 1, and Fontaine has the least, besides Snezhnaya and the Interlopers. While Fontaine makes sense, I am really just waiting for that Mondstadt expansion. Please, do my home some good, Hoyo. On the flip side, I think I mentioned it in my weapon element comparison, however, I wanted to note once more, the entire roster is decently spread amongst the elements, which I do appreciate. Now, as always, what did we learn today? Nothing too useful, I hope, but fun to know regardless. Thanks for watching. And shout out to Bunuhead, Jeja Buns, Waitrel, Superstar Rules, and Davin for supporting the channel. If you support the channel by becoming a member for $1 USD, you also get a shout out at the end of every video, just like everyone here. Thanks for watching.